Hey guys, this is Naveen here. Welcome back to Naveen Automation Labs. So a very quick topic that I really wanted to cover after API gateway, that what is the concept of HTTP versus HTTPS? What is the difference between HTTP and HTTPS? It looks a very simple question, but a majority of the people, when I ask this question at a time of interview, they are not sure about what do you mean by HTTP, HTTPS, what exactly the difference, and for HTTPS, what are the different encryption and decryption models are available. This is something very important. People will ask you at a time of interview with respect to HTTP versus HTTPS. So let's quickly talk about it without wasting our time. So first I'm going to talk about that is the HTTP. So HTTP full form is Hypertext Transfer Protocol. We all know that. So whenever there is a client means whenever there is a browser, it could be any browser, or I would say there is a client and there is a web server. So let's see, this is my web server. We are sending the request to the server over the network. This is your public network. So over the network, I'm sending the request to the server to get some web pages, let's see Amazon.com or something like this. In that case, the whatever data that we are transferring, this data is actually transferring in the form of plain text. Okay. And then the data will be given over the network to the server. Server will read this particular data and the server will respond back via the network to the client that, okay, yeah, this is the web page that you can get it. So the communication is happening between browser and the server over the network just because of this HTTP protocol. Okay, this is Hypertext Transfer Protocol. But what is the problem? The problem is that the most important thing is it is highly insecure. Why? Because whatever text that you are sending, it's available in the form of plain text. For example, let's see, for small application where the data is static and then it's not that important website, only few pages are available. For those application, HTTP protocols are fine. We don't need to worry about it. But for example, you are making some payment, some e-commerce application where you are sending some information, something like this from the client to the server over the network. Let's say you are sending your credit card details. You're sending your username, password, you're sending your address over here, you're sending your city, you're sending some other SSN security number or something like this. Over the network, you are sending to the server. So what is the problem? All these things will be converted into a simple text. Over the network, it will be sent to the server. But in between, if any bad guy, right, this bad guy who is a hacker, who is actually easily sniff your data. So whatever the data that you are sending in the form of text over here, he can directly attack over here and then he will get the entire data, whatever that you are sending, your credit card, your username, password, your SSN security number, your address, city, everything, this guy will get it. So this is the problem with the HTTP, and whatever the server is responding, this guy easily can interact. Okay. And whatever the server is sending, the response to the back to the client, this guy easily can attack the security network layer, and then whatever the data that the server is passing, he can easily sniff and then he can steal the data over the network, because this is not secure. This is simple HTTP protocol that we are using it, right? So that's why we say the second point I would write, it send the request in the form of plain text. Whatever the request and the response is, communication is happening in the form of simple plain text only. Now the third thing is that it's very lightweight. Why lightweight? Because there are no security layer is introduced, nothing. It's simple Hypertext Transfer Protocol. Send the request in the form of plain text, get the response in the form of plain text. So it's very lightweight. There is no security is involved over here. And the default port number, we know that. Remember, people might ask you at a time of interview, what is the default port number? The default port number for HTTP is 80. Okay. And then in the OSI reference model, if you know, it is actually coming at the layer 7. Layer 7 means it is applied at the application layer in your system. In your application, it is at the application level where the browser is sending the request to the server and getting the response. So it is applied at the layer 7. So this is about the basic, HTTP. Okay. Now let's talk about what is HTTPS. How will you secure this particular system? So let's talk about HTTPS now. Okay, HTTPS. In HTTPS, if you see this is HTTP plus S. S means the secured HTTP. Okay, this is your secured connection, right? So what do you mean by HTTPS? In HTTPS, first of all, remember one thing, whatever the data that you are transferring from client to server and server to client, the data will be encrypted form. Okay, this is the data will be encrypted data. Second thing is that what is a port number? The port number of HTTPS, people will ask you at the time of interview, the port number is 443. Remember this thing. And then the certificate involvement is also there. I'll tell you what I mean by a certificate. You must have seen that, okay, we have to install the certificate at the server side, and then browser will validate those certificate. If the certificate is valid, then only the communication will happen. Right? So there is one authority that is called certificate authority, okay, at the browser side, and the browser is having this certificate authority that is also called CA, which will validate the server. It will authorize the certificate which is coming from the web server. Okay, so this is the certificate authority concept also will be applied. So that's why overall, if you see this particular protocol, guys, this is the heavier than, okay, heavier than I would say HTTP, because HTTP is simple, no security, nothing is involved, but here highly secured is available. That's why this is heavier than HTTP. Now, there are two types of security that we can involve over here. That is with the help of SSL and the TLS. Remember this thing. This is what now the SSL and the TLS will come into the picture. SSL full form means secured socket layer, and TLS means transport layer security. Now, SSL was the very old one. Once they introduced HTTPS with the help of SSL security protocol that we can use it. And this is the successor of SSL only, which is more highly secured as compared to SSL. So these days, majority of the companies, majority of the websites, they provide the secure HTTP connection with the help of TLS. Okay, so TLS is nothing, just the advanced version of SSL over here. Okay, now see this very important thing. There are how exactly HTTPS is working. For example, same thing. Let's see, this is my browser, any browser, or I would say this is my client side, and then this is my public network, and this is this web server. Okay, this is my web server, and I'm sending the request. Let's see, I'm just sending some data over here, whatever the data that you are passing over the network. So this particular data will be encrypted, guys. So over the network, it will be encrypted, something like this. Let's see, X, Y, $, hash, some encrypted data will be generated, again $, and then like this. Okay, and then again it will be sent to the server. Now server, what exactly server will do? The server will decrypt this. So the encryption is happening over here, and server will decrypt it, the same data, and whatever data that exactly that you are passing, the same data will be sent to the server. And now server has to respond back. So server will respond back over the network. So whatever the response that you are getting, this particular response will be again encrypted from the server side only. So let's see some encrypted data that you are getting it, something like this. And then again, it will go back to the client side, and client will encrypt this particular data, and whatever the data in the form of response that you are getting, you will be getting it over here. Now, what is the advantage of this? The advantage is that if any bad guy or any hacker who is sitting over here, this guy will try to attack at the network layer, and at the network layer, it will try to get this particular data. And what exactly he will get? He will get the encrypted data. He will not get the exact response, because the response is already encrypted by the server. He will try to attack this particular data which is coming from the client side also, but he will get this particular encrypted data. So he cannot get the idea that what kind of encryption it is. He cannot break this particular encryption. He cannot check that, okay, yeah, what kind of data, and if you are passing your security layer or credit card or your password or something, everything will be converted into the encrypted data. So this guy, the hacker who is actually sniffing your data, cannot hack it. So that's why it is a very highly secured connection will be established between client and server, and then the data will be encrypted, and the data will flow in the form of encrypted data so that the hacker cannot hack it. So that's why this is called secured HTTP connection. Now, how exactly this secured HTTP connection is actually happening? To understand this, There are two types of, I would say, SSL or I would say TLS encryption model. This is a very common topic in our engineering subjects also. Okay, and it's very common everywhere. You will get the exact definition over the internet also. But most of the people, they don't understand what you mean by asymmetric and symmetric encryption. So I will divide into two parts. The first part is the asymmetric. I'll write it over here. And this is what people will ask you, what do you mean by asymmetric? And the second one is the symmetric. Which one is more secure? Which one is better one? Can I combine both? And all such things. A lot of blogs, a lot of videos are there on these things. I hope I'll try to teach you in a very better way, in a very simple language. Now let's talk about the first one, that is called asymmetric, and then we will talk about the symmetric one. So asymmetric, I'll write a couple of points. It is more and highly secured. Okay, it is very, very highly, I would write secured over here, right? And highly secure to crack the algorithm of the encryption, right? So let's talk about it, some basic design, some basic a diagram. I'll show you how exactly it works. So what happens, let's see, this is my client and this is my server. Once again, I would say this is my browser, client or browser, we use the same terminology for that. And let's say this is my server, which is serving the data, or I would say a web server. Okay, now what will happen, whatever the data, the first time I'll try to connect, I'll try to write that, okay, hey, HTTPS, whatever, google.com, right? I'll write it over here with HTTPS protocol. So I'll send the request to the server, to this particular guy, like this, over the network. And the server will check, okay, fine, this is the request is coming from this particular client, and the server will send one public key to the browser. Remember this thing, it will send one public key to the browser. Now browser will check, okay, fine, this is the public key, I got it. So with the help of public key, I simply write PK means public key. And with the help of public key, whatever the data that you want to pass it from here, this particular data, with the help of public key, the data will be what? Encrypted. So it will encrypt this particular data. So I will write encrypted data. Encrypted data means whatever the data, let's say you are passing your username, password or whatever, it will be encrypted over here like that. And then over the network, it will be sent. This is my network. And then the same encrypted data will be sent to the server, right? Now what exactly server will do? Server is having one more key actually. Server is having one key that is called private key. Okay, this private key server will not share. Remember this thing. The server will share only public key. So there are two types of key. One is the public key and the second one is the private key. The private key will always be with the server and the public key will be sent to the client. And then with the help of this private key, whatever the encrypted data is coming, server will decrypt this particular data. So this is called decryption. It will decrypt the data, and whatever the data that, okay, server wants to get, it will decrypt with the help of private key, and we will get the data over here like that. And then again, the same thing will happen with the help of private key. Whatever the data I want to send to the client, I simply send it to the client. Let's say this is the response or some any web page. It will be decrypted, okay, with the help of this particular private key. And then over the network, it will be sent. And the whatever the decrypted data that we are getting it, and then with the help of public key, we will decrypt this particular data and whatever the response that we want to get it, and the client will able to see that. Okay, so this is how exactly HTTPS asymmetric model works. Okay, this is about the asymmetric model. Remember this thing. Now, that's why that we have the involvement of two keys over here. One is the public key and the second one is the private key. That's why this is slightly heavier than as compared to the symmetric one. That's why it will take around 10242 to 2048 bits. okay, for this particular model. Now the people might ask you which one is heavier, HTTP or HTTPS. So obviously HTTPS is more heavier because we have the the concept of public key, private key, encryption logic, decryption logic, like that. So that's why it is heavier but more and more secured over here. Now let's talk about the symmetric one. Symmetric one is the, I would say, the lower version of this asymmetric, which is like slightly less secured, okay, and it is a lighter one also. So let's talk about the symmetric one. Okay, in symmetric one, again, this is my client, and then I'll encrypt this particular data, whatever the data, encrypt it, and then I'll be decrypt this particular data, and then I'll be sending it to the server. This is my web server, right? And the first time we will establish the connection with the server, server will send only one key over here. This is called a common key, guys. Remember this thing. There is no public key and there is no private key over here. This is a common key, will be shared between client and server from the server side. See, client cannot create any kind of key. So in the symmetric model, server will send a common key, and with the help of this particular common key, whatever data that you are passing, your SSN number or your credit card number will be encrypted like this, whatever the encrypted format or encrypted logic that you are using, and then on the basis of that, it will be decrypted, and the server will use the same common key to decrypt this particular data, and the data will be passed over here. And the same thing in the form of response also. Whenever the server is sending a request with the help of common key, the same response will be decrypted with the help of a common key, and then it will be sent to the client, and the client will use this particular common key to decrypt the data, and then will read this particular data. Right, so this is called symmetric model. But what exactly in most of the time, real-time examples, this is what like in books also, in blogs also, you will read it, that we want more and more highly secured system. So what exactly we will do, how exactly actual browser works, we will add symmetric plus asymmetric both the model, we will add it. Symmetric also and asymmetric also. Now this is very, very highly secured. I would say more and more highly secured connection. Now how exactly it works? So how exactly the actual communication happens whenever you are hitting HTTPS, google.com or ICICIbank.com or whatever the bank application, or any kind of HTTPS application, how exactly the communication is happening over here. Let's see the last thing. So I simply say that there are a couple of steps, and please try to explain the exact thing at the time of interview. And this is my client, and this is my server. I would say web server, or I can say simple server. Fine. So what happens the first time from the client side, from the browser side, I simply hit the application HTTPS www.icicbank.com or hsbcbank.com or whatever. So the moment I hit this particular server with the https://abc.com, whatever the application.com, what exactly server will do? Server will send one key to this guy. Which key? Server will send, the first step is it will send one public key, right? Along with some certificate. See, I'll show you. So I cannot show you the public key, but let's see, you go to any application, and let's see, this is the Amazon application. When you hit this particular application, let's see Amazon.in. So you will always see that automatically it will add this HTTPS over here. You can see that this is secured HTTP connection, and along with that you will get this particular lock also. It means this system or this particular website is secured HTTP, and when you click on it, you can see connection is secured and the certificate is valid. So browser is having the certificate authority to validate that, okay, the certificate is valid or not. And once the certificate is valid, okay, so this certificate and one public key will be sent by the server only, and then the browser will validate. How exactly browser will validate? With the help of certificate authority, CA. This is a browser property. Okay, now what exactly will happen at the second step? In the second step, the client will send something to the server. What exactly this something? This is the second step. So what exactly the browser, I would say browser will do what? It will generate one from the browser side. See this, it will generate one symmetric, okay, session key. This particular session key will be generated at the local side. Local side means at the browser side. So what exactly browser will do once the certificate is valid and approved? So with the help of this particular public key, what exactly it will do? It will generate one symmetric session key over here, right? And this public key is what? Symmetric or asymmetric. So public key and private key concept is available in the asymmetric. So this is my asymmetric public key. And then this is a symmetric session key. That's why we say we are including symmetric plus asymmetric concept over here. So browser will generate one symmetric local session key at the local site. And what exactly it will do? Whatever the asymmetric, right? Whatever the asymmetric public key, which is sent by server, this particular public key, and whatever the symmetric session key, right, that we have browser already generated, will be sent to the server like this. This is the second step, will be sent to the server. Okay, now server will see, okay, fine, this is the right public key and the session key got generated. Now what exactly server will do? Now the third thing is that, I will write it over here for you guys. The third thing is that server will decrypt this particular session key. So whatever the session key and the public key that we are getting it, so server is having what? Server is having one private key, that is the asymmetric private key. Server is having it. So what exactly server will do? So in the third step, server will, right, decrypt. Decrypt what? Decrypt the whatever the session key that you are passing, right? Using what? Using this asymmetric private key, which is already available at the server side. So server will decrypt this particular session key using asymmetric private key. Okay, so this will happen at the server side. Okay, at the server side, using the private key, it will decrypt this particular session key. And then when the server is recognized that, okay, yeah, this is a session key is valid, and this session key is actually having that particular public key also, which I have already sent, it means now the connection has been established between client and the server. So this will be the fourth final step. It means the connection established, okay, between these two entities, or I would say connection or session established between this and the server, okay, that you have. So both the connection has been established. Now client and server, they both are ready. The browser and the server, they are ready to transfer the things between client and server over the network. So this is over the network. We will send the request, and the same thing, the request will be sent in the form of encrypted form, sent to the network, over the network, decrypted, and server will, with the help of private key, server will decrypt this, whatever decrypted data is coming, it will decrypt and then read the data. Same thing from the client side, the encrypted data is coming over the network over here like that. But before that, all these four steps will happen. Remember this thing with every browser. So this is what exactly happens, right? So browser will generate one symmetric session key over here like this. This is something new concept, I know that, with the help of asymmetric public key, and will be sent to the server, and server will decrypt this particular session key. And once server say, okay, fine, approve it with the help of private key that, okay, yeah, this is the right session key, which is actually created by the public key that I have sent. And then it will, connection will be established between client and server for the communication, for the further communication over here like that. So that's all between HTTP and HTTPS. I hope it is clear now. So thank you so much guys. Thanks for watching this particular video. If you have any doubt or if you have some more concept about HTTP and HTTPS that you want to share, please feel free to write in the comment section. Thank you so much guys. Thanks for watching this particular video. Please subscribe to the channel if you are liking such kind of content, and let me know or any other questions so that you can tell me, I can prepare the video on the same topic. Till then, take care and God bless you all guys.